Well, I didn't really expect that to happen yet. Yes, the first head coach that has been fired in the NFL is Robert Saleh for the New York Jets. I would say I'm shocked that it's happened now, not necessarily that it's happened at all, just because if you had to guess a few coaches, you would say he was in there, but I'm shocked it happened now. Now, there's a lot of stuff to take away from this. Starting off with just what happened, they said that they did not, and I heard a few people like Adam Schefter say they most likely did not poll the players or go and talk to them. Hey, do you think he's good? Do you think he's good? Should we keep him? Seems like from their perspective, it's saying they just decided to do it. Well, I don't buy that with at least one player, and I think it's pretty obvious, and that's Aaron Rodgers. And I've been a big Aaron Rodgers defender and fan because I do really like him throughout his career. I don't think Rodgers has his direct fingerprints all over this, but he has all of the recent decisions and actions that he's made becoming kind of like the unintentional puppeteer between this decision happening for the New York Jets. Yes, Robert Saleh's record was bad. I definitely took some issue, and I think some others did, with just his lack of knowledge offensively, especially with cadence, like for Rodgers and everything, in terms of him using cadence, and that's kind of what he has done to create a lot of great plays. Woody Johnson, the owner, is a former ambassador for the UK, and obviously when you go to the UK and you play the Vikings and you lose to a former Jet quarterback, things are not going to go well up there, and clearly that in front of his buddies for Woody, that may have been part of the decision as well. And the defense has not been as good as it was last year, but they're still top 5. They have had Morgan Moses and CJ Mosley not playing recently. Tyron Smith and Elijah Vera Tucker are being in and out of games. The D-line has been a rotation without a big expected player in, Hassan Reddick because of front office mismanagement. And the Vikings loss was purely on the offense, to be honest. So I would say the Saleh firing is probably one of the most indirect firings I've seen. Apparently he was also escorted out of the building, didn't even get to really properly, hey goodbye to the team. So that's pretty bad. I don't love that for the Jets at all. And it also came out that he was probably going to fire Hackett if he was able to stay. And they cut that short and fired Saleh as well. Now, I think the biggest issue with the Jets right now obviously wasn't the defense or coaching decisions, which Saleh would be the one doing. It's the offense, which is Breece being outplayed by the youngest player in the NFL who was a later round pick at running back. Rodgers hasn't been objectively bad, aside from, I would say, the Minnesota game, which was definitely on him, but he didn't really build a rapport with his weapons at all, like Garrett Wilson, especially Garrett Wilson, and that's by not really coming to camps at all. But the biggest thing was the play calling, and it's very simple, it's very uninspiring, and it's really Nathaniel Hackett's fault why the Jets are not as good. Nathaniel Hackett should have been the one fired instead of Robert Saleh. But they can't because of his relationship with Aaron Rodgers. And that is the situation that we are in with the Jets. While it's not all Rodgers, meaning that, hey, he's the number one issue on the field, his unwillingness to really do what's best for the team made the owner feel like there was needed to be a cause for change of the recent games, and Saleh is kind of the only one that you can look to say, hey, this is who we can change to maybe have some kind of different results for the Jets. I really don't know how much it's going to change, to be honest. I mean, even if you do feel like this is the move, I still think it's too early. It's too early. It took Brady until like week 11 after their bye week when he was first with Tampa Bay to really get it going with Bruce Arians. And, I mean, the Jets right now, they're 2-3, but a lot of teams are. You're not out of the race at all. And now just looking and moving forward, not much is really going to change, to be honest, especially internally. Jeff Ulbrich is the new offensive coordinator. He was the former DC. He's been there for a while, and he's been a good one. And the schedule is much easier going forward, so I think that's going to help a lot, at least people's perspective. It's going to help because the schedule is easier, so the record might look nicer, because it seems like that's what everyone was just looking at, is the record at the end of the day. But still, this is a win now team. They just cannot afford to just chill and go back again to rebuilding now. They just can't do that. So you better go, at least in my opinion, if you're going all in, say, hey, it's Saleh, we're firing him, then go trade for Adams right now. If you're going to really go down this path, because you've allowed yourself to have Rodgers control a lot of your organization for better or for worse. And even if we think the offense is going to get better, they still need to, at least Rodgers, he still needs to get it going and building more rapport with his wide receivers. So I don't think they can wait until maybe week 10 until that really gets going, or maybe week 8 or something like that, kind of like the Packers the last year he was there. So I think they're going to have to increase their talent level, a la bringing in Devontae Adams, if they want to make up for the subpar offensive coaching and Rodgers' lack of rapport with his receivers at the current moment. So that's kind of the situation I think they're in right now. As for Saleh, I think he will be a really good DC somewhere. Maybe not this year, but I think at some point, maybe he goes back to the 49ers. I think he will be a good defensive coordinator and should get another chance maybe somewhere down the line in his career for another head coaching gig. And for the Jets, I still think they're a playoff team. Not saying they're going to 100% make it, but they absolutely are in contention there. But in reality, inside the building and in terms of how really stuff's going to work, not much is going to change other than them probably looking better because of the teams that they're playing and because Rodgers is just getting more time at his receivers, which is why I think this is the most indirect and maybe one of the most unjust firings. But I'm not freaking out about it because I understand his record and I understand why they feel they needed to change. It's just they got stuck in the Rodgers loophole, and Rodgers needs to bring with him the success and talent that I know he has, because they're dealing with the drawbacks of the players and coaches that he wants that at this point I think are taking away from the team. But if you fire a coach, you've got to feel like, hey, this is the nucleus of what's bringing us down. And in reality, I just don't think that's the case here with the Jets.